Hello, Michael. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here today. You see, I truly appreciate you, my man. And you see, Michael, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Michael, for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest it in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Marco, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Marco, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Michael. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day. I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Michael that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your knowledge, your philosophies, the impact your work is having, and how you're offering your solutions. These stuffs are beautiful, Michael. And just before I sent you that request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Michael is doing, and not only me now, because I don't want to be selfish, and even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Michael. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, my man, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, my man.
Pleasure to be you. I'm excited to be on.
Beautiful, Michael. So let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, Michael, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, Michael, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Michael on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got a lot of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Michael, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So, for that reason, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Michael got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Michael, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to visit with folks. My story is somewhat unique to a certain extent. I did not start off to be a lawyer. I've been a lawyer at a big law firm here in Dallas for almost 25 years, but I originally started with a degree in writing poetry and then a second degree in writing short stories. I spent some time as a fly fishing guide, as a mason's apprentice, a number of other different jobs before I went back to being a lawyer when I went to law school in 1998. And then recently, over the past few years, I've enjoyed getting back to my first love, writing, and I've been able to put together the 2 novels that I have published right now, with a third on the way.
Beautiful, my man. And that's amazing. Just like I mentioned earlier, the impact your work is having. I love it. And thank you so very much for what you're doing. So I've got these questions, and there's this particular one I'm so curious about. Now it says, how can companies survive a corporate meltdown? Got it?
Yep, absolutely. Sure. So you're hitting on one of my specialties. I do a lot of crisis management for corporations and boards of directors. Oftentimes, those companies uh, are subject to what I call threat vectors. So, multiple different lawsuits. Perhaps the press is after them. Perhaps their government or regulator subpoenas all flying at the same time. Could be on the edge of bankruptcy. And so, the idea is to figure out how to prioritize those materials in the storm and try to bring some ordering and regulation to what a lot of people find to be very chaotic situations.
Beautiful, and I got that. Priority. Okay, so what should a company do when chaos hits?
Well, the first thing is to be calm. Most all of these events are going to play out over weeks, months, a period of time, rather than immediately being resolved within a matter of hours or days. So you do have to pause, take a breath, and then, like I said, you want to start prioritizing those things that have the most impact that you can address right away. And then you just start working through them one at a time.
Mhm, I got that. Okay, you used the word priority, prioritize. So how do you prioritize when facing multiple threats?
Well, the first thing you have to do is take in the information. So one of the most key skills for somebody that deals in the area that I do with crisis management is to listen and to try to start absorbing information. There's a ton of information just beyond the briefs or the paperwork that comes across. There are personalities, there are histories, there are dynamics within the company that you have to understand. And so you start to absorb as much information as possible before you make decisions.
Ah, got that. So let's get personal a bit, okay? So how did a convict change your life and career?
Yeah, so that belongs with um, Edwin Kimbrell. He was a prisoner that I was assigned to do a civil rights trial in a federal court in Wichita Falls, Texas. Edwin was a bank robber. He was about 75 years old. He'd already had 2 open-heart surgeries, and he was suing the state of Texas, the prison, for failing to give him his medicines on time. And a federal judge employed me or appointed me to represent Edwin with one of my good friends, David Schulte, also a lawyer. And Dave and I actually went up and tried that case. And what I learned when I ran into and met Evan were some of the longer lasting lessons that I've received as a lawyer.
Got that too. So what about this one? What case shifted your path from being a lawyer to an author?
Well, Edwin probably did. That trial, the story of how he was. When I met him, he was incredibly. I was expecting a rough and gruff prisoner, a really sort of hostile attitude, if you will. He was in solitary confinement 23 hours a day and was considered an escape risk. And what I found was by listening and connecting with him, he was funny. He was incredibly smart. It was a great connection to make. And I learned a lot about how to treat clients with respect and dignity, even if they're not in the best situation of their life.
Which is so important. Okay, so listening to you speak, you've been in this work now and you've got amazing experiences and you're just so good at what you do. But there is something I know that it's so inevitable, which is challenges. So how have you been able to overcome this tough period? Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. So challenges come no matter what. They come to everybody, whether they be professional in your career or personal. They can be health challenges with a child or a spouse or yourself. So again, I go back to the idea of first taking a breath understanding the situation as best you can. Try to absorb as much information as you can so that you have the opportunity to make the best decisions on an ongoing basis.
Understanding the situation, take a breath, understand the situation, a lot of information. That's profound. I got that. So let's talk about communication. How is communication different in court and in writing?
Well, one is obviously more technical than the other, but in all honesty, it's all goes back to the same skill of storytelling. As a lawyer, you're trying to explain to the judge or the jury through essentially a story augmented with law what your client's position is, how they were harmed or didn't harm the other person if they're a defendant, and why you should win. And that's very similar to writing fiction or dealing with other forms of writing because it's all about telling the story and trying to communicate in the clearest method possible the underlying facts, circumstances, chronology of what's going on.
What's going on? Got that. So you used the word story, all right. So what is the true story behind Confessions of an Accidental Lawyer?
That is definitely Edwin. So it's, I was a very young lawyer. Oftentimes I refer to myself as a baby lawyer at the time. And it was my first federal court trial to a jury. So I learned a lot. It was very exciting, but I really learned a lot about humanity. Edwin was an incredible story. I learned a lot about perseverance. He filed the suit by himself. Originally, when he was in prison, a lot of his pleadings were either handwritten or typed. His case was dismissed by the trial court judge, and he went and took it on appeal and got the trial court judge reversed. His case was dismissed a second time. He took it back to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, got it reversed again. Then he went back and fought through discovery, which is the process by which you get documents from both sides. He was dogged and persistent, and ultimately was such a good jailhouse lawyer that he was able to get the Attorney General lawyer working on the file sanctioned for discovery abuses for not providing documents on a timely basis. And then when it came to trial, there was just no way he could prepare a trial being locked in a cell 23 hours a day. So that's when we became appointed.
That as well. Okay, so let's talk about your creativity, all right? So what keeps you creative as a lawyer and writer?
That's a great question. I'll answer it by saying it's really the puzzle of both. When somebody brings you a legal question, you have to understand the facts, but then you also start to work through the puzzle of how you can be helpful, what arguments you can make, what evidence is going to apply. And so assembling that puzzle is very actually fun and rewarding. And it's very similar in a fiction writing novel aspect. You go from an idea to an outline, from an outline to chapters, then finally a full manuscript to work through on the revisions.
Okay, but there is this aspect I'm curious about. So how do you mix truth and fiction together?
Good question. Good question. So you're correct. There are parts of Confessions of an Accidental Lawyer that were inspired by true events. And that was wonderful to tell Edwin's story and other stories in there to let people see that part of my life. The freedom I found in the second novel, Jake Fox Ties That Blind, is that we're not moored to actual events underlying it anymore. And so you're free to change or make things up or have them fit any way that you want.
Okay, got it. So to bring this to an end, Michael, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about the beautiful stuff you're doing, or even ask you questions, or make a purchase of your amazing novels, how can that be possible?
Yeah, so people can reach out to me at michaelstockham.com, straightforward email. And I think the one thing I would leave folks with is perseverance. Life is not always easy. It can be very difficult. And if you are dedicated to the concept or the idea of what you want to achieve, you can oftentimes make it, or actually always make it, through the rough patches to get to those things that you want to celebrate.
Powerful words, and that's profound. Perseverance. I got that. So that's going to be the end of the show, my man. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you, man.
Really, my joy to be here. Thank you for the invite.